It's time for Week 15 of the NFL season, and it's looking like one of the craziest yet. Between a bunch of injuries sustained last week, playoff scenarios on the line, and other ridiculous headlines like Phillip Rivers coming back to the NFL, we could be in for a good one. And today I'm going to give you a brief breakdown, preview, and my predictions for every single game on the Week 15 schedule. And let's just hope it goes better than last week for me. I went an abysmal 4-10, my worst performance by far, I think, in my time doing these predictions over the last couple of years. I really want to bounce back strong here, but at this point, I may be at the mercy of the very unpredictable NFL. Let's see how this goes, starting off on Thursday night when the Atlanta Falcons take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Every game counts right now for Tampa Bay. They're in grave danger of being lapped by the Carolina Panthers for first place in the NFC South, and maybe their only realistic shot of making the playoffs. A tough, heartbreaking loss to the New Orleans Saints that came out of nowhere has put them in a precarious position where they're just barely holding on by a thread thanks to the tiebreaker. So now Tampa Bay basically have to play perfect with Carolina right there on their tails, and this is a game they could very easily choke. The Atlanta Falcons have given them plenty of trouble the last couple of seasons. Kirk Cousins in particular absolutely tore apart Tampa Bay's secondary last year, if you remember correctly. So this is scary hours for sure if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think just knowing that they're at home and that this is a must-win scenario, I am expecting them to squeak out a win here. Atlanta, I think at this point, are demoralized. They got absolutely destroyed by the Seattle Seahawks. Kirk Cousins has been awful the last couple of weeks, and now that they don't have a chance of qualifying for the playoffs or winning their division or anything, they probably won't care as much. They probably won't fight as hard. So I'm expecting Tampa to come out on top, and maybe, just maybe, we'll see Mike Evans get back into the fray and have a good game. Moving on, you've got the Chicago Bears hosting the Cleveland Browns. Chicago, they're coming off a tough loss to Green Bay where they just surrendered first place in the NFC North, and they're looking to get back on track. But if I'm being honest, even though they are clearly the better team, I'd be very worried if I was a Chicago fan in this matchup. The Bears have a tendency to play really close games, and I don't know if that's what you want to deal with against this Cleveland team that has nothing to play for, where Shedeur just had his best game as a pro in a loss to the Tennessee Titans. Not to mention that Cleveland defense, man. They are vicious. I know they had an off week against Tennessee, but generally they have been vicious, and that's not who you want to play into when it's a one-possession game, you know? This is a very losable game, especially when you consider that the forecast suggests that it's going to be bitterly cold at Soldier Field in this matchup as of right now, early in the week. We're talking single digits with high winds. It's not going to be a passing type of day. We're going to see both teams very much rely on their run game, and Cleveland have no problem with that thanks to their stud rookie running back duo. But honestly, I think this might favor Chicago. Tennessee kind of exposed Cleveland's run defense last week with Tony Pollard, and the Bears can rely on their dual threat duo of DeAndre Swift and his blistering speed, and Monangai, who just likes to run people over. I love having an enforcer type of running back in the cold that's going to constantly put a defender on his butt on the hard ground. That can set the tone. Chicago's a better running team. I think this very much favors their strengths, and they're going to find a way to get the W. And then an AFC North divisional battle. Once again, the Cincinnati Bengals are playing the Baltimore Ravens. They played not that long ago. Didn't go too well for Baltimore. Baltimore just lost another tough game to a divisional rival in the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're in danger of potentially missing the playoffs now. They're starting to fall behind, and their offense has quite frankly looked very sloppy. Lamar just does not look comfortable out there for the most part. Clearly that hamstring is nowhere near 100%. It's affecting his play, and that makes me very nervous. If I was a Ravens fan, I'd be scared to lose every game from here on out with how stagnant and inconsistent that offense has been. I don't want to be overly emotional, though, with the AFC North. I've done that a lot this year with the Steelers, Bengals, Ravens. I always end up regretting it when I change sides, so I'm going to stay consistent despite them losing to Pittsburgh. I'm going to pick the Baltimore Ravens to win this game on the road. It's must win. I know it kind of is for the Bengals too, but a dagger kind of went through their heart in that Buffalo game. It's not looking good for them, and I just don't see Lamar losing to the Bengals twice in one season. I don't think that's happened since like Joe Burrow's second season in the league, if I remember correctly. It's been such a long time. Baltimore are overdue for a big game. It's going to be pretty chilly there. They've got Derrick Henry to hopefully set the tone. He's overdue for a massive game. I'm going to cope and pick the Ravens to win this game. I'm not going to give up on them quite yet, but if things go wrong for them this week, they're definitely screwed. Speaking of being screwed, how about the Kansas City Chiefs hosting the LA Chargers? The Chiefs just needed to win that game against the Texans. They could not afford to lose it, but they did, and in pretty bad fashion as well. That game was winnable, but it felt like a lot of the players, their hearts just weren't in it. That seemed like the final dagger for the Kansas City Chiefs. You can tell there's just something different in the air over there this season. They're losing a lot of the close, hard-fought games that they were winning last year. It seems like some of the players aren't totally locked in. I feel like Pat Mahomes is doing all the work just for his guys to consistently drop passes, and while the defense does their best to hold on, it doesn't matter if they're not scoring. This Chiefs team is in a weird funk, and at this point, I've lost all trust in them. The simple fact is, they're just not good anymore. This team is not good. It doesn't matter if they have the best quarterback on the planet. Does not matter in the slightest if the rest of the team is not bought in. I believe that the Chargers are going to win this game. Now, knowing my luck, the Chiefs end up turning it around and going on a serious playoff run the moment I give up on them, but I think I'm ready to hop off of the train after seeing them have yet another poor performance in a super winnable game. But man, this week just keeps on getting tougher. The next game on the schedule is the Buffalo Bills versus the New England Patriots. Massive game here. If the Patriots pull off this victory versus Buffalo, they officially clinch the AFC East and a spot in the playoffs. It's looking real good for the Pats thanks to their record in the division, and Buffalo losing that game to Miami. Must-win situation for the Bills if they want to keep their hopes and dreams alive. And in general, this should be a pretty exciting game. Two of the best teams in the AFC going head-to-head. They had a pretty awesome game the last time, and I'm expecting more fireworks this time around. It's going to be intense. Both sides are going to have some big-time scores. Drake May and Josh Allen are going to flex their talents, and it's difficult to say what's going to happen. The Patriots have been the better, more consistent football team this year, but I'd also like to think they aren't quite as proven. Yes, anytime they have encountered a big challenge like Buffalo, they have played well in those situations. But I think it's been too long since they've been challenged by a seriously good team, and they're going to find out about December Buffalo. The Bills always played their best football in the Josh Allen era around this time of the year, and I expect no less here. I just don't see the Bills losing twice in one season to the Patriots. I got Buffalo winning this game. In the grand scheme of it, I don't think they're going to catch up and win the AFC East, but I think they're going to have a good win to regain their composure and confidence as we head towards the playoffs. I think making that comeback against the Bengals is going to change a lot for this team momentum-wise, and we're going to see it with their performance against the Patriots on Sunday afternoon. And now we finally get a break from some of the big-time matches as we look towards the little guys, the Giants versus the Commanders, the two NFC East bottom feeders going head-to-head once again. Interestingly enough, the Giants are opening up as slight favorites in this game. Very rare to see that. I'm pretty sure the last time they were favored to win a football game was when they got crushed by the New Orleans Saints. So as a Giants fan, that doesn't exactly make me feel very good about the situation. However, this still is a very winnable game for the New York Giants. They're well rested, coming off of a bye week. I know they didn't look good against New England, but they got a chance to recompose themselves, and they're playing a Washington team that feels like a dead man walking at this point. Injuries have plagued them over and over and over again. They just got shut out by the Vikings. Jaden Daniels got hurt again, and it's uncertain if he'll even play in this game. It seems like if he's able to, he will go in there. But as a precautionary measure, if I was the Commanders, I probably wouldn't. I'd assume there's a chance he ends up getting shut down for the season, just so they don't destroy their franchise quarterback like they did with a certain other guy back in the day. But what the heck do I know? Now, if JD was able to go out there and play and look normal and healthy, I'd expect him to win. He's owned the Giants in the 3 games he has played against them, but let's be for real, if he does play, he's not going to be anywhere near 100%. The Giants have some dogs on that D-line. He could very easily re-aggravate that injury, so either he's going to not play 100% and miss some throws, maybe get hurt again, or they're going to go towards Marcus Mariota, who's played like 1 good game this entire season. Either way, doesn't look too bad for the Giants. And, we are in December, and this is where the Giants love to get those culture wins. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. I know I was kind of coping, and they lost to the Patriots, but generally speaking, when we get to this time of the year, when the Giants have a bad record, they start stacking wins for no reason. Their schedule is pretty manageable in December, and they just recently got the number 1 overall pick, projected at least, after the Titans won, so it's time to ruin that as they did last year and many other years before. Gotta have those culture wins. Giants are going to take this one. I honestly just want to see the G-Men win games. I know it's going to suck. I know they're going to lose the number 1 pick, but it's been so long since they've won a game. Jackson Dart's been hyper-focused during the bye week. He wants to win. He's going to play well against that crap Commanders defense, and they're going to get that culture win, damn it. Up next is the Raiders versus the Eagles. Oh boy, Philly, things are starting to go downhill kind of fast, huh? That's now 3 losses in a row. The offense looks insanely dysfunctional. Jalen Hurts keeps forcing passes to A.J. Brown, and it's leading to turnovers and drop passes. This Eagles offense is all out of whack. They can't do anything like how they did last year, and it seems like we're almost headed towards 2023, where the ultimate crash out happens, and they end up playing terribly come playoff time. Thankfully for them, it looks like they're getting their bounce back game opportunity. The Raiders are one of the worst teams in the NFL, and I expect the Eagles to get the job done. Bad as they have looked, that Raiders defense is totally incompetent. There's going to be holes, and the Eagles will be able to execute simply through the talent alone. They'll probably get back into the 20-plus point category, and I'm expecting them to get the quarterback a lot. That Raiders O-line sucks. Their QBs get sacked all the time. It looks like Kenny Pickett might go out there, but hey, the Eagles know him all too well because he was on the Super Bowl team, so Eagles should be winning this without too much of an issue, even though I am very worried about them. And then you've got the New York Jets visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's be for real, this is probably one of the easiest games on the schedule to predict. Jags should be winning this game without much of a contest whatsoever. They're usually very good at performing at home, and the Jets are a total mess. That game against the Dolphins was a disgrace, and their quarterback situation is a mess. There's no way they're going to move the football against that Jags defense. Either you're putting out an injured Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields, or you're relying on your rookie quarterback Brady Cook. Seems to me like the situation is absolutely cooked no matter what the Jets decide to do. There's going to be no offense in that game. Jags are going to win like 30-10, and that'll be that. And in the final early afternoon spot, you've got the Houston Texans versus the Arizona Cardinals. The Texans are on a roll right now. They're looking good. That defense is ferocious. CJ Stroud is back. He made so many good hero plays against the Chiefs. I thought that was the best game he's played all season, despite what the stats may tell you. The Texans are so back, and they're in a great position to either potentially win their division or bare minimum clinch a wild card berth. And now, after playing that tough game against Kansas City and all these recent divisional games, they get a good free win against the Cards. The Cardinals are starting to fall apart. They're starting to look dead. They're not keeping games close like they used to. The Rams absolutely blew them out, and now Jacoby Brissett has to play his biggest challenge yet when he plays that Texans defense. Houston are an infinitely superior team with a much better mindset right now. I think the Texans win by whatever the heck they want. They're going to keep that winning streak going. Now we're on to the 4 p.m. games where it starts to get interesting again. The Green Bay Packers are taking on the Denver Broncos, 2 of the best teams in the league. This could end up being game of the week, and it's a tough one to call. Green Bay is starting to heat up. They just beat Chicago and Detroit back-to-back. Their offense looks extremely good right now, very explosive with Jordan Love and Christian Watson. They could give Denver a lot of problems, but at the same time, Denver, they haven't lost a game in forever, especially at home. This team is absolutely money at home. They haven't lost at home in 2 years. I feel like both teams are overdue for a loss. The Packers, whenever they go on a winning streak, usually they get humbled. Right when you start to think they're a Super Bowl contender, something goes wrong. It's already happened like 2 different times this year. While Denver, they keep on having these games where they barely scrape by. It feels like they should lose one of these days. It's such a tough decision to make. But honestly, I don't know if the Packers can beat Denver at home with all the voodoo magic going on with all these one-score victories they have. Denver just always find a way to win. Whenever I doubt them, I end up regretting it. So I think I'm going to go with the Broncos. There's only a matter of time before you can say they're legit. You can't say they're overrated every week when they continue to win. They've got the defense to slow down Jordan Love. He can be turnover prone. If they can get some pressure on him early, I can see the Broncos capitalizing, keeping this game close, then pulling it out in the fourth quarter like they always do. The Broncos just love to pull it out of their butts, so it's time to make it happen again, I suppose. But what's crazy is this may not even be the best game of the 4 p.m. slot. That could go to Rams versus Lions instead. Another potential banger. Maybe game of the year on the horizon if both offenses show up in full. Both teams just play a very similar style, so I think you're going to see them clash in a very evenly matched bout here. Matt Stafford and Jared Goff are 2 very highly immobile quarterbacks that are looking to sit in the pocket and sling it downfield to their skill position players like Puka, Devontae, Amon-Ra, and Jamo, to name a few. They both like to rely on the run game heavily as well, and they have a defense that can get to the quarterback, and I think both sides for both teams are going to make plays to make this an absolute spectacle. And historically, in the Goff for Stafford era, they've played each other really close like every single time. I'm expecting more of the same here. You may even favor the Rams as the more consistent team this year at home as well, but I'm actually going to go with the Lions. I think they've been challenged more by the heavy hitters, so to speak, as of late. Some of those games have led to some tough L's, but overall has made them stronger in terms of their mentality. While the Rams, their schedule's been a bit easier. They had that game against the Panthers, but you don't consider that to be a hard one on paper. It's more of just a shocking loss. So I feel like the Lions may be a bit more mentally prepared. They've had the Rams number, and I think they may be able to establish the run game just a little bit better, just knowing how dominant Jahmyr Gibbs has been. This will be a very interesting match, and it's probably one of the hardest ones to pick. And that's basically the last hard game in the afternoon, because next is the Carolina Panthers versus the New Orleans Saints. The Saints, like I said earlier, deserve a bit of credit. I thought Tyler Shuck had already been read by NFL defenses, but he showed me he can actually be somewhat of a dual-threat quarterback. He played very well in that Tampa game, and the Saints are now at home after already beating the Panthers once before this season. Genuinely, they might be able to take this one as well. It also helps that the Panthers have been rather unreliable and inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get with their offense. Anything can happen. It's very realistic for Carolina to lose this one, but I'd like to think after getting such a big win and momentum booster against the Rams, and the fact that they had a bye week with rest to prepare for this game, that they'll come out strong, they'll play better, and they'll get a W versus the Saints. They can't mess around. This is one of the most winnable games they have on the schedule left, and they got to try and catch up to the Buccaneers. They're so close to being first in the NFC South. They could be at the top of it by the end of Week 15, and I don't think they waste that opportunity. The last time they played the Saints, they were sloppy, but it was still a winnable game, so I'd like to think if they clean it up, they get the W this time around. The New Orleans Saints are not a team you can count on to win more than one game in a row. They just don't have it in them. Speaking of not having it in them to win, how about the Tennessee Titans versus the San Francisco 49ers? I'll give the Titans some credit. Their run game looked really good against the Cleveland Browns, and that was a well-needed win for Cam Ward. His beating his rival Shedeur Sanders like that in a tough matchup, that's a feel-good story, but now you're playing the San Francisco 49ers, a team with playoff aspirations that's way more talented than Cleveland, that is not going to let you get away with murder like Tony Pollard did. The 49ers just have way too much to play for, and this is one of the worst teams they will play this season, so they're not going to waste this. They've got to keep track for maybe winning the NFC West, if not clinching a playoff berth. Christian McCaffrey probably does whatever he wants. Niners had a week to prepare for this game. Should be a relatively easy win for San Fran. Tennessee sucks, and they're not going to replicate what they did against Cleveland. Up next, before we get to prime time, the Seattle Seahawks are taking on the Indianapolis Colts. If this game happened, I don't know, like a month ago, I'd be pretty excited about it. Two of the best teams in the league going head-to-head, an explosive offense versus an explosive defense, but not now. The Colts are in a dire circumstance. Their season had already been falling apart. They had already been losing some tough games recently, but now their quarterback situation is a complete disaster. Daniel Jones is done for the year with a torn Achilles. Not to mention, Anthony Richardson, their backup, is dealing with an eye injury that he's still recovering from. He's still on IR and won't be playing in this game. So they should be going towards their third string, Riley Leonard, but he also may not be ready for this game. He is questionable. Even if he does play, doesn't make you feel that good, but if he doesn't play, the Colts could be relying on 44-year-old Phillip Rivers off the couch, who they signed to their practice squad this week. That's how bad it is. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot of respect for Phillip Rivers, but he's been out of the game for quite some time, and if it's him you're depending on at this point, with his age, it's probably not going to go too well for you. The Colts don't stand much of a chance unless Jonathan Taylor can dominate, but Seattle are just going to play for the run, and it should be a pretty easy win for them. I'm expecting the Colts to not move the ball very well at all in this game whatsoever. Seattle win by whatever the heck they want. They've taken advantage of the vulnerable teams time after time this season. They're on a hot streak. They're looking amazing right now. I'm expecting more of the same like we saw in that Atlanta game. And that leaves us with Sunday night when the Minnesota Vikings play the Dallas Cowboys. Why is this game still in primetime? This should have been flexed out for one of the many other amazing games, but here we are, man. So Minnesota shockingly dominated the Commanders. If they did win that game, I expected it to be ugly, but they completely blew out the opponents, demoralized them with their defense, and JJ McCarthy stayed out of trouble and played probably his best game as a pro yet. Could that be the turning point for 9? Can he get involved with Justin Jefferson a little more? Pretty pleased as a dynasty owner in the playoffs. That'd be greatly appreciated. But yeah, they actually have a chance of winning this game if they can move the ball at least somewhat efficiently. I'd expect their aggressive defense to get a couple of stops here and there and keep the game close. But I just don't know if I trust JJ McCarthy enough yet. That Dallas secondary is terrible. Justin Jefferson is overdue for a mega game. But McCarthy just hasn't shown me enough to be convinced that he can do this more than 1 week in a row. He'll have a good game and give you hope and then play like garbage for the next several. The Dallas defense and their pass rush, it's been a lot stronger in recent weeks. I think JJ's going to be under a lot of pressure and we're going to see him make some mistakes, and that's all it's going to take for Dallas to win this game. They're going to put points on the board eventually, and if they can capitalize off mistakes, they should win by whatever the heck they want. Dallas are a significantly better team at home, and I expect them to get the dub and keep their playoff hopes alive. And that leaves us with Monday Night Football, another game that really should just be flexed, but we got the Miami Dolphins versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers showed me some life shockingly against the Baltimore Ravens. Aaron Rodgers probably had his best game as a Steeler since week 1 against the New York Jets. And suddenly they are first place in the AFC North again. And now they're playing the Miami Dolphins, who are on a big winning streak right now and technically still have a chance of making the playoffs. Their run game has been absolutely phenomenal. They proved me wrong by getting a big win in the cold against the New York Jets. Things are looking on the up, surprisingly, for Miami, and I don't think it would be surprising at all if they won this game against Pittsburgh. The Steelers really aren't that good of a football team. They just barely beat the Ravens, who are playing like garbage right now. But the thing is, we're at the point of the year where the Steelers are getting dangerously close to not winning 9 games, and they always get to that quota bare minimum like every year in the Mike Tomlin era. This team just refuses to go under 500 with him. He's been receiving some criticism within the media lately, and I don't think he's going to take that. They're going to come out with a good game plan and make sure they get those 9 wins, damn it. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers winning this game. I know that I said the Dolphins don't play well in the cold, and they still managed to beat the Jets, but I'm maintaining that mentality. I think against a better team in the cold, their luck may not be as good, especially because Devon Achane may not be totally 100% in that game. He left the previous matchup with an injury. It seems like he should be okay to play, but he's not going to be 100%, and if he can't run with full force, that's going to make it a bit more difficult for that Miami offense. They're going to have to depend on Tua more, who really hasn't looked good even in these wins. So I think a lot of that favors the Pittsburgh Steelers to get a W here. Don't have too much sound reasoning behind it, but that's what happens when you have two weird teams playing each other. I am picking the Steelers to keep their hopes and dreams of winning 9 games alive. And those are my predictions for Week 15 of the NFL season. Pray for your boy. Hopefully this week isn't nearly as terrible. Let me know who you've got winning and what your best bets are down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you could hit the like button and subscribe for more weekly NFL predictions.